pursuit of financial gain and to settle my debts, I found myself compelled to venture into the city for employment. It is often said that becoming a canary leads to swift earnings. Thus, in hopes of being swiftly selected, I resorted to fabricating my identity and assumed the guise of an omega. When the heir of a pharmaceutical conglomerate descended to choose candidates, I caught his eye immediately. Under the impression that I was merely to serve as a canary, I hastily signed the contract without a second thought. One moment, I was reveling in the dream of a job that provided food, accommodation, and comprehensive insurance benefits. The next, I was confronted with a clause in the contract that read, substantial compensation for offspring. A month to conceive, and within a year to deliver, with a promise of 10 million in compensation for providing a child. My world crumbled as a beta. How was I to fulfill such a demand? I gazed at that glaring title, choking on my tea. Do you have any objections to the terms of the contract? He inquired. Cough, cough. No, I replied. The heir lounged on the sofa opposite me. His chin lifted slightly, while his lawyer stepped forward to collect the documents from the table. Watching the contract drift further away from me, I felt a surge of agitation. After years of honest toil, I had told a single lie to secure employment, only to land in the clutches of Lu Chixing and his exorbitant demands for progenia clear retribution from the heavens. The contract is valid for 1 year. I will ensure your quick conception and will arrange for dedicated care thereafter. I will cover all your living expenses, he stated. I own a villa in Lishan district, and tomorrow I will send someone to escort you there. Remain there patiently for my arrival. I will visit when I have the time. Also, please remember that we are merely engaged in a transactional relationship. Do not harbor any illusions of affection from me aside from monetary compensation. I will offer you nothing. The penalty for breach of contract is outlined in the final pages. I trust you will review it carefully. I quickly flipped to the end of my copy of the contract and was met with astronomical figures. Even if I were sold, I could scarcely be worth such a sum. My mind raced, almost overheating as I struggled to devise a plan. It was all due to my foolish haste in signing. Do you have any further questions? If not, you may leave, Lu Chixing stated coldly, dismissively. Trembling, I took a sip of tea and cautiously inquired, employer, if hypothetically I were unable to conceive, what then? He laughed derisively, as if I had uttered the most absurd joke. Have you forgotten? Hungrui Pharmaceuticals is my family's enterprise. No ailment is insurmountable here. Indeed, our company is quite formidable. I responded with a forced smile, while internally I mused. If Hungrui Pharmaceuticals could truly enhance a beta's fertility, the alliance would no longer fret over declining birth rates. Before I could ponder further, the heir confidently asserted, moreover, I am certain that with my capabilities in genetics, you will not struggle to conceive. Yes, you are correct. I was merely overthinking. I conceded, regardless of his genetics or abilities, if a child were to emerge, it would be akin to smoke rising from my ancestors' graves. 2. In the winter of the 357th year of the Allied Nations, the conflict in the southwestern region came to an end, yet my father did not return alive. My mother, long ailing, was overwhelmed with grief upon hearing the news of my father's demise, and soon followed him into the afterlife, leaving me alone, burdened with debt. Perhaps fearing for my life, she implored me repeatedly before her passing to repay all borrowed money. My father's meager pension barely covered the interest on the debts, compelling me to leave my hometown, where I had lived for over 20 years, and venture to the capital of the Allied Nations. In the bustling metropolis, opportunities abound. Securing a job here would make repaying my debts merely a matter of time, and perhaps I could even amass enough to live comfortably for the remainder of my days. Alas, my singular desire was to settle my debts swiftly, so that I might join my parents in the afterlife. I chose the path of least resistance, not foreseeing that I would encounter the unwitting benefactor, Lu Chixing. 3. The young master was remarkably efficient in his endeavors. The day after my relocation to the villa, he instructed his secretary to transfer this month's payment, which I promptly used to clear my debts. Watching the sudden influx and subsequent disappearance of funds in my account, I could not help but reflect. I do not generate wealth, I merely transport it. After a week of restlessness, the inevitable transpired. Had it not been for his early susceptibility this time, I might have had to endure a longer wait. After all, my employer had no interest in a mere lover. His sole desire was for a child. Confronted by the overwhelming pheromonal pressure emanating from within the room, my legs trembled like leaves in a tempest. During this period, I had researched Lu Chixing online. He was not only the heir to the prestigious Hungrui Pharmaceutical Company in the capital but also a paragon of excellence. With a physique and appearance that set him apart, it was no wonder that countless women sought to marry him. I could not fathom why he would specifically seek out someone to bear his child. Most disconcerting was my uncertainty regarding whether I could withstand the presence of such a formidable individual. If I failed to earn the money, I might lose my life, and my debts would remain, subjecting me to my mother's incessant reproaches. Why are you standing outside the door? Hurry up and come in. I'm coming. With gritted teeth, I pushed the door open, immediately enveloped by the suffocating pressure of pheromones that seemed intent on swallowing me whole. Though I could not discern the scent of the pheromones, the oppressive aura suffusing the room made it difficult to breathe. The prowess of a top-tier individual was indeed formidable. The dimly lit room was illuminated solely by a single lamp casting a warm glow. In stark contrast to the overwhelming pheromonal sensation, my employer sat quietly on the sofa, perusing documents, serene as a sacred and noble statue. Are you a stutter? Why does the document not mention this? I don't stutter. I am merely nervous. He finally raised his gaze to me, his sharp eyes seeming to pierce through my facade, and I swallowed hard. What is there to be nervous about? The process was explained to you by the doctor the very next day. Heat flooded my cheeks. Indeed, someone had come to instruct me, but my current anxiety stemmed not from that, but from the fear that he would discover my true nature when the moment arrived. It would be fine. I had doused myself in the lethal pheromones my colleague had provided. I could manage an evening with Lu Chixing. I dislike dilly-dallying and have no time to waste on your acclimatization. Come here. Let us proceed swiftly. For I approached him cautiously, only to be unexpectedly yanked into his embrace. Perhaps he had waited too long, for Lu Chixing's expression was far from pleasant. At that moment, I recalled my faint sense of professional ethics and leaned in to lightly kiss the corner of his mouth. His breath hitched, and the scene spiraled out of control. My body felt as rigid and damp as a piece of wood freshly severed from a tree, the pain radiating from where the saw had cut deep, while the lumberjack relentlessly attempted to hollow me out to plant his precious seed. Little did he know that there was no fertile soil within, and the seed could never germinate. It was all a futile endeavor. This thought ignited a flicker of guilt within me towards Lu Chixing, and despite the pain, I gently embraced him. However, he misinterpreted my gesture and intensified his efforts. Lu Chixing, like a ravenous creature that had never tasted meat, overwhelmed me throughout the night, leaving me dazed on multiple occasions, and he showed no signs of relenting, determined to achieve his goal of procreation before releasing me. By the end, my neck felt as though it might be torn apart, and I nearly confessed my truth, but fortunately, I lost consciousness first. The following morning, Lu Chixing remained beside me as I rose, yearning for a drink of water, only to discover that my body was unresponsive, my bones aching as though they had been disassembled and reassembled. Awake, are you? Startled by his voice, I flinched. Lu Chixing had awakened at some point, his beautiful phoenix eyes fixed intently on me, his expression exceedingly grim. Good morning, employer. Humph? I was the one who had been overwhelmed last night. Why was he wearing such a sour face? Employer, are you feeling unwell? I am perfectly fine, but perhaps you should explain when my hired individual transitioned from male to female? 5. My mind went blank, and the blood in my veins felt as though it had congealed. I dared not meet Lu Chixing's gaze, let alone respond to his inquiry. I could only lie still, closing my eyes in feigned death. Do not tell me you just recently underwent redifferentiation this week. Cold sweat dripped down my back as I trembled in response. If I say yes, then I will truly kill you. Your glands are shriveled to such an extent, and you still dare to pretend? Do you take the susceptibility period for a fool? Lu Chixing rose and began to dress, his tone icy. The amounts stated in the breach of contract are crystal clear. Prepare the penalty fee promptly to avoid me hiring a lawyer for litigation. Upon hearing the term penalty fee, my body reacted faster than my mind. Ignoring the pain coursing through me, I seized Lu Chixing's shirt. Employer, everything can be negotiated. While I cannot bear children, I can assist you in other ways: bodyguard, housekeeper, sanitation worker. If all else fails, I can be your pet dog or toy. I beg you, please do not discard me. In that moment, dignity and pride meant nothing to me. As long as I could avoid incurring further debt, I would do anything. Lu Chixing turned back to regard me with a gaze that was a mixture of emotions. I am not that depraved. Just then, the phone rang, and I anxiously watched as Lu Chixing answered. A middle-aged man's voice crackled through the line. Master, the lady wishes to remind you of the upcoming banquet at the end of the month. You did not return last time, and the master was quite displeased. Moreover, she has arranged a new marriage candidate for you. Before the man could finish, Lu Chixing interrupted him, referring to her as the lady repeatedly. Have you forgotten who was kind enough to allow you to remain in the Lu household? Go back and tell that vixen to cease using my father to pressure me. My marriage is not for her to dictate. Furthermore, Lu Chixing seemed to recall something, his gaze shifting to me as he appraised me, a cunning glint in his eyes. I will return at the end of the month. Let her and my father prepare for a surprise. After hanging up, Lu Chixing's smile deepened, sending chills down my spine. He reached out to cup my chin, whispering in a devilish tone, "Get up. It's time to work." 6. Lu Chixing did not discard me, nor did he relent. From the moment the phone call ended, I found myself entirely at his mercy. Each day, in addition to mastering the role of a female, I had to diligently study etiquette and Mandarin. He claimed that whenever he heard me speak, he felt as though he were in a desolate desert, with sandstorms raging around him. It was no wonder that urban folk placed such importance on the way they spoke. He could have outright criticized my rustic manner of speaking, yet he chose not to. Despite his intention to purchase me new garments, he first felt compelled to belittle me. "Dressed like a tattered rag, are you some sort of savage? The fabric is so coarse, it must be quite uncomfortable." Although Lu Chixing's words were harsh, he was not a malicious person. At least, he demonstrated a modicum of respect through his actions. Just the previous day, he had bellowed at Secretary Yang about discarding the outdated clothing from my wardrobe, yet by the following morning, the garments had been neatly folded and placed at the bottom of my closet. The everyday items I brought from the village were often met with his disdain, yet when replaced with new ones, he would ensure the old items were carefully packed away. My learning pace was slow, so he took it upon himself to tutor me each night. While practicing social dance, I frequently stepped on his feet, and though he mocked me verbally, he patiently taught me time and again. However, it seemed he had not relinquished his plans for offspring. After a day laden with back-to-back classes, I was still required to continue researching how to conceive with Lu Chixing in the evenings, making my life feel more strenuous than when I toiled in the village. Despite working through the day and lumbering at night, Lu Chixing possessed an energy akin to that of a dog, transforming into a relentless drilling machine each evening, determined to carve out a hole in my stubborn wood. It wasn't until the night before the banquet that I could no longer endure it, leaning against him to pose a question that had piqued my curiosity from the start. "Employer, must you have a child? Is adoption not an option?" He breathed heavily in my ear. "Ha, do you take me for one of those old bachelors from your village, who, upon failing to procreate, turned to adoption? If it weren't for my grandfather's will stipulating that an heir must be produced within 3 years, I wouldn't be expending this effort." He flipped me over, allowing me to lie flat, then leaned down to kiss me. "But employer, we've been at this for over half a month, and I'm truly unable to conceive. Perhaps you should consider another." Before I could finish, I was met with his firm refusal. "No," I weakly inquired, "why not? I do not indulge in frivolous affairs. Do not forget, we signed a contract regarding childbirth. I am merely fulfilling my contractual obligations." I was momentarily at a loss for words. Lu Chixing grasped my chin, regarding me with a meaningful gaze. "Besides, you are far more intriguing than those others." "Intriguing? In what regard?" It seemed he had never complimented me aside from our intimate moments. What was so fascinating about me? Was it that I was more resilient than others? The kiss that enveloped me left me breathless, as the lumberjack resumed his work with fervor. Just as I felt we were nearing a breakthrough, Lu Chixing suddenly halted. I felt like a piece of driftwood adrift in the bay, unable to reach the shore, my heart in turmoil. In the dim light of the moon, Lu Chixing's eyes met mine, glimmering like a ravenous wolf on the prairie, his smile especially enticing. "You almost had me fooled." When Jean, what did you just call me?" "Employer." The lumberjack's tools stirred again, as if to punish me, lightly tapping against the wood. "What should you call me?" My mind, nearly in a state of overload, raced to find the appropriate title, and I finally uttered it. "Husband." Lu Chixing's eyes narrowed in satisfaction. "Remember, you must not misname me tomorrow." Like a soldier receiving orders, the lumberjack's enthusiasm surged, and he returned to his timber work with renewed vigor. The following afternoon, I accompanied Lu Chixing to the ancestral home. Although the Lu family was the wealthiest in the capital, their residence was quite unpretentious. According to Lu Chixing, the family fortune was established by his grandfather, who had only one daughter. Lu Chixing's father had married into the Lu family, but sadly, his mother passed away early, and the old man held on until Lu Chixing reached adulthood before he departed this world. The will clearly stated that Lu Chixing was the sole heir, yet his father was unyielding, continually fixating on the clause demanding an heir within 3 years. His stepmother schemed to influence Lu Chixing's marriage in hopes of inserting her own chosen candidate, which prompted Lu Chixing to devise this plan. Just before we exited the car, Lu Chixing suddenly grasped me, pulling me into his embrace, the position intimate as though we were a young couple in love. What is it, employer, cough, husband? He wrapped his arms around me, whispering softly in my ear, "Shoo, don't get out of the car yet." Lu Chixing fell silent, and I assumed someone outside was watching, so I leaned closer into him. I could hear his heart beating steadily, striking rhythmically. "Husband, are you nervous?" "Your heart is racing," I remarked. He remained silent, but his breathing became heavier. I dared not look up, merely continuing to murmur, "Husband, are you all right? Husband? If you hear me, just give a sign. Husband." I turned slightly, attempting to ascertain his state, only to inadvertently brush against his lumberjack tools, and I immediately realized my error. Raising my gaze, we exchanged glances. Both our faces flushed crimson. I quickly withdrew from his embrace, while Lu Chixing cleared his throat awkwardly. "Ahem, my impromptu performance was passable. Just act naturally, and if you do well, I'll raise your salary." I nodded absently, "Yes, I understand." Upon exiting the car, Lu Chixing reached for my hand, and the moment our fingers touched, I recoiled as if shocked, yet he seized my hand firmly. "Don't panic, be confident." Although he said this, I still felt a sense of discomfort. After a few steps, I couldn't resist the urge to touch the collar around my neck. Lu Chixing halted beside me, pretending to adjust my clothing. "No need to be anxious. I will remain by your side. Be confident, you look lovely today." My face instantly flushed, and Lu Chixing appeared quite pleased with my reaction, timing it perfectly to plant a kiss on my cheek as Steward Lu emerged to greet us. "Beautiful." He reminded me not to forget our roles. To onlookers, we appeared as a couple deeply in love, yet only I understood that it was all a fade. While my heart had begun to feel something real, Steward Lu guided us through the garden to the main hall. By this time, the banquet was already well underway. Upon entering, we were met with a dazzling spectacle, a scene of vibrant colors and lively festivities. Truly, it was a mesmerizing world, and while I knew I was here for the banquet, anyone unaware might mistake it for an emperor's selection of concubines. Lu Chixing certainly commanded attention, yet the man himself bore an expression of calm, tinged with a hint of disdain. A lavishly dressed, middle-aged woman approached through the crowd, prompting Steward Lu to bow respectfully. "Madam, the young master has returned." "I am aware. You may leave now," she replied. Her gaze was sharp, and though she clearly noticed me at first glance, she feigned ignorance, adopting a congenial demeanor as she conversed with Lu Chixing. "Look at you, finally returning after such a long absence. We must make the most of it. Just look around. These are all the young talents of Liqing. Your father wishes for you to select one today. I think the young Master Zhang would be an excellent choice. His father is." Before she could finish, Lu Chixing interrupted her. "No need. Save your breath. Don't exhaust yourself before the old man passes away." The once amiable expression of Madame Lu shifted to a mix of green and purple. "Tell my father I have brought back a daughter-in-law. If there are matters to discuss, they must be addressed in the study. Time waits for no one." He deliberately raised his voice at the mention of daughter-in-law, drawing the attention of nearby guests, who paused to observe. Lu Chixing squeezed my hand, and I feigned affection by linking my arms through his. As we boldly navigated through the crowd and ascended the stairs, a wave of astonishment swept through the guests, and even as we entered the study, I could still hear the commotion from downstairs, filled with murmurs of discontent over being outmaneuvered by the Lu family, feeling humiliated. However, I was too preoccupied to dwell on such matters, and could only sincerely marvel at the grandeur of the Lu family. Their study was nearly as expansive as the library in our village. Before I could even take a seat, footsteps echoed from outside the door, and leading the way was a figure leaning on a cane, veins bulging with fury, followed closely by Mrs. Lu, who appeared to relish the spectacle. "Look at the mess you've made. You've utterly humiliated me in front of all these people, Mr. Lu bellowed. Lu Chixing, unfazed, replied, "How could this possibly be a disgrace? I've brought home a daughter-in-law, which is a matter of great pride. If you can't grasp that, it seems you've truly lost your wits." Mr. Lu was momentarily at a loss for words, and seizing the opportunity, I began to perform with vigor. "Greetings, uncle and aunt. I am Wenjin, Chixing's boyfriend." Mr. Lu cast a scrutinizing glance my way, his gaze unsettling, as if he were appraising a mere commodity rather than a person. With a disdainful snort, he inquired of Lu Chixing, "Which family does this child belong to? I've never seen her before." "What do you mean, which family?" "Wenjin is someone I met at the club. I was smitten at first sight and, upon returning home, we immediately established our relationship." "You?" Lu Chixing squeezed my hand, and I quickly played along. At that time, my parents had just passed away, and I was forced to work to pay off debts. I endured numerous hardships at the club, but fortunately met Chixing, who not only accepted me but also took me home. We even have a love child. I caressed my belly, which could never bear a child. My cheeks flushed as I awkwardly turned to nestle into Lu Chixing's embrace. At this, Mr. Lu's fury erupted. Absurd. This is utterly ridiculous. I believed my performance was the highlight of the evening, as the fact of earning money to repay debts was true, but the blush was not. It stemmed purely from thoughts of Lu Chixing's relentless pursuit of a child. Before I could regain my composure, I recalled I had missed a couple of lines and turned back, bashfully exclaiming, "Uncle, Chixing and I are truly in love. Will you not accept me as your daughter-in-law and bless our union?" A tremor of suppressed laughter shook Lu Chixing's chest, and he commented, "Dad, sometimes you ought to empathize. Wasn't it absurd when you were sneaking around behind Mama's back? I didn't scream at you like that. All you want is for me to marry and have children, yet now that I've brought someone home, you're displeased." I remained hidden in Lu Chixing's embrace, silently astonished. His family dynamics were far more dramatic than any soap opera I had seen back in the village. Unable to counter Lu Chixing's words, Mr. Lu grabbed his cane and approached to strike us. Yet we clung to one another, refusing to let go like star-crossed lovers. Now that we have a daughter-in-law, a grandchild is sure to follow. You might as well abandon any hopes of inheriting the family fortune and refrain from causing further trouble. I can still provide for you in your old age. Otherwise, you should know what fate awaits you, Lu Chixing declared ominously, shielding me as we exited the study. Enraged, Mr. Lu hurled nearby objects in our direction. As we made our way out of the banquet hall and back to the car, I finally realized my left shoulder was aching. My back felt swollen, but I dared not tell Lu Chixing, fearing his reproach or the possibility of him withholding my wages. I endured the discomfort until it was time for the logging session, but he soon discovered it. He pinned me to the bed, and as he applied an ice pack to the bruise, he scolded me. "Hiss, I thought you'd turned into a snake spirit again. Your shoulder is swollen to the size of a pig's head, and you let me do as I please? Are you planning to live forever? Or is this just for a single session? Fine, if you want to speak, I'll see just how much you can endure." Lu Chixing removed the ice pack and began applying ointment. His words were harsh, yet he didn't apply much force. Once he finished, I turned to him and asked, "Employer, does the promised raise still stand?" Lu Chixing seemed taken aback by my question. He paused for a moment, and his gaze dimmed, clearly displeased with my inquiry. You don't even care for your own safety, yet you're still thinking about a raise." Outside, the sound of rain began to patter softly. My awkwardness left me at a loss for words, and I feared he might retract his promise. So I mustered the courage to ask, "So, employer, about that money?" Lu Chixing irritably pulled me closer, dressed me in my pajamas, and turned off the lights before lying down to sleep. It seemed I had misspoken again. Thunder rumbled outside, and the rain intensified, showing no signs of abating. I cautiously lay on my side, barely closing my eyes when I heard him shift behind me, followed by his deep voice. "What do you need so much money for?" I wanted to turn around but was stopped, so I answered him while facing away, "To repay my debts." "How much do you owe?" "8 million. Only 8 million. What about your parents?" Lu Chixing paused. Having read my background and presumably knowing my parents had passed away, "They're gone. And once you repay your debts, what do you plan to do?" "Perhaps I'll return home. I should go back to accompany them." A long silence ensued, so prolonged that I thought Lu Chixing had fallen asleep. Then, amidst the rumbling thunder, came a murmured confession. "I have money, a great deal of money. I will give you money. Will you stay by my side?" Indeed, Lu Chixing possessed an abundance of wealth. Luxury cars, villas, status, and riches. But at this moment, lying behind me, he seemed to have nothing at all. He was lonely and yearning, seeking warmth from another. Unfortunately, he had chosen the wrong person, a rootless being without a future, unable to provide him with what he sought. I remained silent, resembling a turtle retreating into its shell, pretending to be asleep. The day after Lu Chixing brought me to the Lu household, news of the heir to Hungrue Pharmaceutical and the canary preparing for marriage spread throughout the city. Lu Chixing's friends erupted in chatter within their group. Ji Wonjo pulled me into a video call. "Wow man, are you serious? You said you wouldn't get married. How will I survive the new year without you as a single man to protect me?" Jiang Li chimed in, "Where's the sister-in-law? Bring her out to meet everyone." Gu Zhao added, "Who was it that said in the group, as long as there are children, feelings don't matter? Has this performance led you to actually fall in love?" The three of them were chattering away, utterly unconcerned for Lu Chixing, purely excited to witness the spectacle. Lu Chixing rolled his eyes. "If others believe it, that's one thing, but what's wrong with your brains? Have they been eaten by zombies? You're all as foolish as pigs. Zhongli retorted, yeah, you're so clever to think of this scheme to have a child to avoid the marriage. I certainly couldn't come up with that. Lu Chixing replied, if you had a father trying to seize your company and a stepmother pushing people your way, you'd think of it too. Anyway, this is the situation. If you can offer advice, do so. If not, then get lost. Getting lost was out of the question, and the group continued to make plans. By afternoon, Lu Chixing took me to meet his friends. Lu Chixing's circle was small, only 5 people in total, including one studying abroad named Ji Chun. Among the 5, Ji Wenzhou was the chatterbox, while Ji Chun was his cousin. From him, I learned quite a bit about Lu Chixing and Ji Chun. They had been childhood friends with a betrothal, and after a falling out, Ji Chun went abroad to study. They shared a close bond, having been inseparable during Lu Chixing's emotional turmoil, and Lu Chixing had even pursued Ji Chun, but a conflict had driven them apart. From elementary school all the way through high school, it is evident that Ji Wenzhou is an unwavering fan of the two of them. A heaviness settles in my chest, stirring discomfort within me. I recognize that I am envious, yet I feel I lack the right to be so. I try to console myself. No childhood friendship can compare to the tangible allure of money. Once I settle my debts, I plan to return home and never again set foot in this wretched place. Lu Chixing and Gu Zhao returned from outside, and upon seeing Ji Wenzhou still seated beside me, Lu Chixing unceremoniously whisked him away, restoring a sense of tranquility to the world. In the days that followed, Lu Chixing's stepmother repeatedly sought me out, attempting to oust me from Lu Chixing's side to install her own people in my place. After I rebuffed her advances, she resorted to bribery, hoping to recruit me as their informant, but I firmly rejected her once more. The reason was simple. Her offers were far too meager. The moment I hinted at a higher price, she was quick to retreat. Indeed, those who lack power are invariably impoverished. She neither wished to spend money nor to see others prosper, perpetually scheming for her own advantage. Lu Chixing remained blissfully unaware, believing my loyalty to him was unwavering. In a fit of joy, he repaid all my debts, transforming himself into my creditor. Truly, he is a capitalist, ensuring that no intermediary profits from the transaction. Lu Chixing continued his nightly pursuits of tree carving, yet he never again uttered such words. I suspect that his loneliness, coupled with the atmospheric tension of a thunderstorm, led him to speak as he did that evening. Were another to lie beside him, he likely would have said the same. TSK, can you focus a little? Why have you been so distracted lately? Am I truly so devoid of allure? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I genuinely felt fatigued. Even though my physical constitution surpassed his, I could not endure his frequent demands. I now suspect your inability to conceive stems from a lack of focus. Starting next week, we shall increase the intensity. I refuse to believe you cannot conceive. Heaven bear witness, the low birth rate we face is fundamentally a physiological issue, wholly unrelated to concentration. Employer, is it possible that I simply cannot bear children? Perhaps you should find a surrogate. Before I could finish, Lu Chixing came over and silenced me. You either remain mute like a statue or chatter incessantly without uttering a single thing I wish to hear. Tomorrow, I shall have Secretary Yang enroll you in a public speaking course. You ought to learn what constitutes the art of language. Alas, before I could attend the course, Lu Chixing's childhood sweetheart returned from abroad. It is no wonder Ji Wenzhou praises him. Lu Chixing's childhood companion is indeed stunning, both beautiful and graceful, akin to a freshly bloomed iris. From the moment she entered, I realized we were incomparable. Moreover, I could not bring myself to harbor any animosity towards her. After all, what tree stump would not appreciate the presence of such a lovely flower? I certainly did not. Lu Gu, it has been a while. Ji Chen's gaze fell unabashedly upon Lu Chixing. He approached to embrace him briefly before slowly weaving through the crowd towards me. This must be Wen Jin. Pleasure to meet you. Ji Chun extended his hand with poise, and I reciprocated. I am equally pleased to meet you. His grip was firm, and the hostility in his eyes suggested he viewed me as a rival. Let us not linger. The dishes will grow cold. Jiang Li ushered everyone to dinner, and Lu Chixing pulled me to sit beside him, while Ji Chun was assigned to sit at Gu Zhao's right. Thus, we found ourselves separated by several individuals, facing one another, and I could not escape Ji Chen's melancholic gaze. To avoid looking at him, I focused on the food, and by the end of the meal, not only was I still hungry, but my neck also ached from the strain. Fortunately, Gu Zhao's villa was spacious, and while they prepared for the next round, I slipped out to the balcony for some fresh air. Do you not find them utterly tedious? What? The sudden voice startled me, and I turned to see Ji Chun standing at the balcony door, gazing at me. Otherwise, why would I have come out here? No, I merely wished to get some air. Though it was spring, the night breeze was still somewhat chilly. Ji-chun, clad in a thin shirt, shivered as the wind swept through, prompting me to remove my jacket and offer it to him. He looked surprised, his face reddening, and in a fit of indignation. He retorted, "Who asked for your jacket? I am not cold. Take it. It would be unfortunate if you caught a cold. You're ridiculous, pretending to be concerned. I thought you had some significant influence, but it seems you are no different. Humph. Let me be frank. Lu Gu would never marry someone like you. Do not think that your gentleness and thoughtfulness can win him over. To him, you are merely a pastime. I understand. You understand? Our relationship is strictly professional." Lu Chixing made it clear on the day he signed the contract that I should not harbor any illusions about his feelings. Aside from financial compensation, he will offer me nothing. Of course, I am only responsible for my duties in exchange for payment. Anything beyond that falls outside my purview. Ji-chan appeared taken aback by my candidness, remaining speechless for a moment. Humph, at least you are perceptive. Having obtained the desired response, Ji-chun left contentedly, but paused at the corner of the door, his expression darkening. As I donned my jacket and prepared to return, I spotted Lu Chixing and Gu Zhao at the corner, holding my jacket. Gu Zhao managed to escort Ji-chun away, leaving Lu Chixing and me to exchange glances. After a prolonged silence, Lu Chixing finally broke the stillness, asking, "Do you have something to say to me? About what?" His brow furrowed, lips moving as if to speak, yet he hesitated. I suddenly understood. Are you still worried about Ji-chun misunderstanding things? Rest assured, I have clarified everything with him, severing any misconceptions about our relationship. If you wish to win Ji-chun back, I could assist you in staging another performance. Then you and Ji-chun could be together without concern for childbearing issues or fear of Lu Tai's interference. Ultimately, you could clear my debts, and I would be free to return home, no longer a burden to you. Enough! Lu Chixing's voice cut through the air, sharp and frigid, his expression stormy. When Jean, do you see nothing beyond money? He fixed his gaze on me, desperately searching for the answer he desired in my eyes, but I averted my gaze, looking elsewhere. Indeed, employer, I still have debts that remain unpaid. Lu Chixing was momentarily taken aback. Then, after a long pause, he chuckled bitterly. Ah yes, you still have debts, and indeed need a considerable sum. Otherwise, you shall have to rely on my generosity to return home. Ha ha ha. How absurd that I am here questioning why you see only money. His laughter was more sorrowful than any tears, a sight that felt alien to me. Yet soon, he composed himself, reverting to the familiar demeanor of the young master I knew. Lu Chixing departed, leaving me alone in the corridor. After wandering for a while, my stomach betrayed me, reminding me of my hunger, and I found myself yearning to return home. Lu Chixing had drunk too much, and I stayed over at Gu Zhao's house with him along with Ji-chun. At 3 in the morning, I was awakened by Lu Chixing's feverish heat, his intoxication rendering him insensible. I had no choice but to rise and seek Gu Zhao for a suppressant. Following Gu Zhao downstairs to search, I returned to find Ji-chun seated at the bedside, assessing Lu Chixing's condition, evidently having calmed him with his pheromones. After administering the suppressant to Lu Chixing, I stepped outside, raising the hand that had just touched him, staring at it for a long time. What exactly does pheromone smell like? It smells like irises. I abruptly turned towards the source of the voice. Gu Zhao leaned against the wall, smoking. He turned back, awkwardly extinguishing his cigarette. I apologize. I seem to have misremembered. Lu Chixing's pheromone is apparently that of the jade orchid. Is that so? The jade orchid must possess a delightful fragrance. In the early hours of the morning, Gu Zhao found me another guest room, assuring me that he would keep an eye on Lu Chixing. Yet, as I lay in bed, sleep eluded me. With my eyes shut, the image of Ji-chun seated beside Lu Chixing, offering him solace, filled my mind. I understood better than anyone that Lu Chixing needed companionship. Ji-chun, with his own company as a pillar of support, would undoubtedly benefit from a union with Lu Chixing. My presence here felt like an unwelcome hindrance. Perhaps it was time to gather my belongings and make my exit. The following morning, as Lu Chixing stirred awake, he insisted on returning to the office. Gu Zhao, unable to dissuade him, personally drove him there, with Ji-chun naturally accompanying them. The four of us harbored our own thoughts, exchanging little conversation. From that day forth, Lu Chixing essentially resided at the company, only returning occasionally to retrieve documents. This also conveniently facilitated my preparations for departure. I discreetly inquired with Secretary Yang about Lu Chixing's recent activities, who mistakenly believed I was yearning for Lu Chixing and thus reported back to him. After receiving permission, he shared the schedule with me. After reviewing it, I purchased a ticket for the following Monday. Lu Chixing had a full day of meetings and would be unable to leave. My luggage and provisions were all packed, ready for my escape. However, on Sunday afternoon, Lu Chixing unexpectedly returned. I hurriedly stowed my luggage in the wardrobe and stepped out to greet him. "Employer, why have you returned? This is my home. Can I not come back?" Lu Chixing looked up at me, and I met his gaze with a hint of guilt. "You're so anxious. Are you hiding a man in your home?" "Me? Employer, you overestimate my significance." "Then why the unease?" "I was merely excited, having not seen you for so long and missing you." Lu Chixing seemed rather pleased with this response. No further inquiries followed. He leaned in to claim a kiss, and only when my legs grew weak did he finally relent. I remained nestled in his embrace for some time before hearing him say, "Since you miss me so much, I shall not return tonight but stay to keep you company." "Oh dear, what a predicament. Look at the trouble you've brought upon yourself." Lu Chixing was resolute in his decision to stay, and fearing that further conversation might raise his suspicions, I dutifully went to take a shower. Thankfully, I had the foresight to purchase a ticket for the midday train, so as long as Lu Chixing left in the morning, I could make my escape. Upon emerging from the bathroom, I found Lu Chixing staring vacantly at a glass of milk, and upon noticing me, he naturally handed it over. "I've warmed some milk for you. Drink it while it's hot." Without much thought, I accepted it and took a sip, oblivious to its peculiar taste. Before long, I began to sense that something was amiss. Not only was I feeling dizzy, but I also felt an unusual warmth enveloping me. Surely, Lu Chixing had not slipped me some seasonal medication? I had been quite compliant thus far, so this seemed unfounded. Lu Chixing remained in the bathroom, and in a daze, I caught a whiff of a fragrant aroma. A dull ache began to throb in my lower abdomen, the scent intensifying as Lu Chixing settled beside me on the bed. "Employer. What is it? My stomach hurts terribly. What did you put in the milk? A fertility drug." "What?" Lu Chixing caressed my face, his eyes clouded with inscrutable emotions. "We signed a contract for childbirth. You have stated that you're merely fulfilling your obligations for compensation. Rest assured, this medication has passed clinical trials. If you behave, the pain will soon subside." My senses heightened, the aroma entwined around me, soothing my frayed nerves, and it dawned on me that this was indeed the scent of Lu Chixing's pheromones. The sensation, much like a tree being subjected to the axe, intensified more than any previous encounter, and I found myself pleading with Lu Chixing for mercy. "Employer, please let me go." Lu Chixing looked down at me, commanding, "I do not appreciate being called employer. Use my name, Lu Chixing." He smiled at me, then quickened his pace. I was ensnared. His name acted as some catalyst, driving him to greater fervor the more I called for him, and we continued until dawn painted the sky with light. The next morning, when the alarm rang, I found myself alone in an empty space. Sometimes I ponder whether Lu Chixing, who keeps such late hours, truly does not fear collapsing from exhaustion. Perhaps he is simply extraordinarily gifted, unlike us. After prolonged inactivity, a mere bout of exertion feels as if my body might fall apart. I gathered the precious gifts Lu Chixing had bestowed upon me, placing them in a box prominently on the sofa alongside my farewell letter. Donning the attire that Lu Chixing had derisively referred to as a tattered rag, I hastily departed the northern capital with my belongings in tow. After a journey involving trains, tricycles, and donkey carts, I finally returned to my hometown. Half a year away had left the place unchanged. I visited my parents' graves to recount the events of the past 6 months, but as night fell, I had yet to finish my tales. After all, I would soon meet them again, and it mattered little. Once I tidied up the house, I found a coarse hemp rope and prepared to bring my life to an end. At the moment the noose encircled my neck, thoughts of Lu Chixing, the unfortunate soul, flooded my mind. How unfortunate he was to have encountered me. Not only had I deceived him with a false identity, but he had also helped me repay so much of my debt. I would never be able to repay Lu Chixing in this lifetime. Perhaps in the next, I would find a way. With a gentle push, I found that I had not yet succumbed to the noose, as the house itself succumbed to collapse. Dazed, I scrambled from the rubble. I had long heard my mother mention that our home had been hastily built during times of poverty, but only today did I truly comprehend the veracity of her words. 2 weeks later, I opened a Mandarin training class in the neighboring town. On the night of the collapse, a neighbor had been awakened and, upon discovering my intent to end my life, promptly informed the village chief. The chief, recognizing the serious issue of aging in our village, where the youth were a rare commodity, provided me with psychological support. Ultimately, he offered me the use of his uncle's storefront in the neighboring town for free, which led to the establishment of the Mandarin training class, thus ensuring that Lu Chixing's expenses were not in vain. Everything seemed to be falling into place. In the following months, I diligently saved my earnings, allocating part for rent and utilities, and another portion to repay Lu Chixing. I often wondered how he was faring. Was he still as busy at work? Had Mrs. Lu troubled him again? How was his relationship with Ji Chun progressing? Had they perhaps already wed? I had no way of knowing. This place was far removed from the capital, where communication relied heavily on radio broadcasts, and even television was a rarity. To glean news from the outside world would require traversing 3 great mountains. I could only tend to my training class, striving to keep my thoughts of him at bay. Unfortunately, it wasn't too long before my health began to wane. Initially, it was a stomach ache. I assumed it was a side effect of that fertility drug, as I could still catch a faint whiff of pheromones on my clothing. Subsequently, I experienced dizziness, headaches, and fever. During that time, the village was plagued by a severe flu outbreak, and I consumed cold medicine for several days before seeing any improvement. Eventually, my appetite surged. I found myself spending all my money on food, only to feel drowsy afterward, lacking energy. To my astonishment, I discovered a noticeable bulge in my abdomen. Upon visiting the village clinic, the doctor admitted he was unsure of the cause, which alarmed me. I had just resolved to live well. Surely it couldn't be cancer. That night, I took a tricycle and traversed mountains to reach a city hospital, where the doctor informed me, "Congratulations, you are pregnant. The fetus is in good condition and already 4 months along." I found myself momentarily stunned, seated in the hospital corridor with the report in hand, lost in thought. Had Lu Chixing's ancestral grave truly begun to emit green smoke? Despite his relentless efforts, I had never managed to conceive before. How was it that I was suddenly pregnant? Patients and nurses passing by cast curious glances in my direction, and I pondered that while pregnancy might be uncommon, such scrutiny seemed unwarranted. It wasn't until a small child sat beside me and inquired, "Brother, is that person on the television you?" that I followed his gaze and indeed saw myself on the hospital screen. Reward. The fiancée of Hungrui Pharmaceuticals president went missing on May 7, 358. Any kind-hearted individuals with information, no matter how small, are encouraged to come forward for a reward of 30 million. Contact number. The unflattering photograph appeared to be one taken when I first arrived in the city, captured by the manager of the club. Yet, none of this was the crux of the matter. What truly astonished me was the value placed upon my existence. Did he desire my company or my very life to warrant such a bounty? I had no time to engage further with the child, waving my hand dismissively before hastily exiting and hailing a carriage to make my escape. Lu Chixing's reward notices had even reached the far-flung border towns. Given his temperament, should he find me, I could only imagine the consequences. Truly, it was one calamity after another. That night, as I lay in bed tossing and turning, uncertain of how to handle this pregnancy, I drifted into a restless sleep around 5 in the morning, only to be abruptly awakened by persistent knocking at the door. Initially, I thought I might be imagining it, but the individual outside displayed remarkable tenacity, continuing to knock despite the neighbor's ire. Squinting, I got up to open the door, and before I could even discern the stranger's face, I was pulled into an embrace. I struggled to push away, but the grip only tightened. "Don't move." It was Lu Chixing. He wrapped me in his coat and strode into the room, ensuring to close the door behind us. Thinking you could run away at a time like this? I never knew you possessed such audacity. Hiding in a place like this made you quite the challenge to find." Lu Chixing's voice was hoarse, laced with an icy tone that suggested he might wish to consume me whole. Yet his body betrayed him as he clung to me like a child who had found their beloved toy, nuzzling against my neck. "Employer, I began, wanting to clarify that I had no intention of fleeing, but my words were silenced as he kissed me passionately, only releasing me after a prolonged moment, lifting me effortlessly onto the bed. The rental space was modest, its furnishings minimal and clearly delineated. Lu Chixing sat on the bed, disdain evident in his tone as he remarked, "This is even worse than my dog's kennel." He then lay down beside me, pulling the quilt over us and enveloping me in his arms. I considered that the dog's kennel at the Lu residence was indeed a lavish affair, and he wasn't entirely incorrect in his assessment. Lu Chixing held my waist firmly, and I felt a wave of anxiety wash over me, fearing his intentions, but he merely kept me close. "Don't move. If you try to run, I will drag you back and restrain you." Employer, I had no intention of running. I have told you before that I dislike being called employer. From now on, You are forbidden from using that term. Understood. Lu Chixing closed his eyes to rest, and I found myself observing his face, noting how much weight he had seemingly lost. Why the silence? What is there to say? Anything will do. Did you issue the reward to find me and force me to repay my debts? Lu Chixing opened his eyes, his brow furrowing. I anticipated you might regress in language, but I never expected your intellect to decline as well. It has only been a few months. Has your linguistic system fallen behind your cognitive abilities? Are you hoping to inquire whether I have been getting along with Ji-chun? Have we married yet? I bit my lip, hesitant to respond. This was indeed a question I wished to ask but dreaded the answer. Allow me to clarify, we are married. My heart plummeted to the depths, and I averted my gaze. Why would he seek me out if this was the case? We wed last month. He is now part of the Gu family. What? Gu Zhao and Ji-chun are married. Do you require me to repeat that? But didn't you share a past? Lu Chixing appeared incredulous. Who told you that? When did we ever have a past? It was merely Ji-chen's unrequited love. Do you have any further questions? If not, you may leave. Alliance, I murmured, and Lu Chixing's anger flared further. You believe the gossip from that fool? When I return, I will sew his mouth shut. As I listened to his tirade, I instinctively burrowed deeper under the covers, until Lu Chixing sighed at my behavior. How did I ever come to have feelings for someone as foolish as you? The confession was unexpected, and I nestled deeper into the blanket, my face burning. You pleaded so pitifully for me not to discard you, yet you swiftly turned and abandoned me. When Jean, what do I truly mean to you? From beneath the covers, I quietly responded, you are the father of my child. What? Lu Chixing, if I were to bear you a child, would the 10 million in compensation outlined in the contract still hold? Lu Chixing quickly regained his composure from the shock. Of course it would. I am yours entirely. What is 10 million in comparison? Blushing, I lifted the blanket to show him the bag. The child is here. You must remember to transfer the funds. He gently caressed my abdomen, tears of joy welling in his eyes. Very well, whatever you wish. Don't even mention money. If you asked me to break my bones to make soup, I would gladly oblige. Lu Chixing embraced me tightly. When Jean let us return home, I raised my arms to return the embrace. Yes. In the year 358 of the Allied Nations, I was pursued by my creditor, who insisted not only on money but also on me. Upon learning of my pregnancy, he desired a child as well. He whisked me away from the village back to the capital, and from that moment on, I had a home once more. The end. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this tale, please consider subscribing and liking to show your support. Until we meet again for our next story.